Our davening, our tefillot, our prayers will bring people to join us. So we begin this morning on page 34. I just want to say welcome officially to the folks who are in the room. So sweet to have you here. And for those of you who are joining us via live stream, my name is Rabbi Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to take off my mask while I'm up here, so hopefully you can see me a little bit better. And we begin on page 34 with Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Shanah Tovah, Rachel, who just walked in. See, we sang and somebody else came. That was my hope. So wonderful. Thanks for being here. We continue with the blessings for learning Torah on page 35. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. V'erevna Adonai Eloheinu et divrei Toratecha b'finu v'fi amcha b'Yisrael, v'nehiyeh anachnu v'tzetze'enu v'tzetze'ei amcha b'Yisrael, kulanu yudei shemecha v'lomdei Toratecha lishma. Baruch atah Adonai hamelamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Continue on page 36. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten ha'Torah. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha, v'yisem lecha shalom. Vayisem lecha shalom. If you're able to join me in standing, we'll begin the blessings for arising, Birchot Shachar, on page 37. And please say Amen after each blessing, or join me in the blessing itself. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sachvi vina levhavchin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani betzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asali kol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael betifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten li'ayef koach. Continue with Baruch Shamar on page 47. If you're able to stand, please do. Baruch she'emar v'haya ha'olam Baruch hu. Baruch oseh v'reshit, Baruch omer v'oseh. Baruch gozer ha'makayem, Baruch merachem al ha'aretz. Baruch merachem al habriot. Baruch meshelam sachar tov l're'av. Baruch chai la'ad v'kayam la'netzach. Baruch podeh u'matzil. Baruch hu u'mavarech shemo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ha'el ha'avarachaman ha'mehulal b'fi amo meshubach u'for'ar b'lshon chasidav v'avadav uv'shirei David avdecha nehalech Adonai Eloheinu b'shvachot u'vizmerot negalecha u'nshavecha u'nfarecha v'nazkir shimcha v'nimlicha malkeinu Eloheinu yachid chei ha'olamim Melech meshubach u'mfoar adei ad shemo hagadol Baruch atah Adonai Melech mehulal b'tishbachot. You may be seated. We continue with the Ashrei on page 60. And I'm going to sing the beginning phrase of the Ashrei with an English phrase, and if you would like to read all of the words for the psalm, please do, and then I'll sing the ending, the Chatima, the closing part of the psalm as well. Ashrei Yoshvei, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah. Ashrei Yoshvei, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah. I sing for you. I sing for what is holy and is true. I sing for all creation, for life and liberation, every day anew. Ashrei Yoshvei, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, Od Yehalelucha Selah. Yaidai, yadadaidai, yaidai, 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 yaidai. Page 61 at the little red triangle. Tehilot Adonai Daber Pi Vivarech Kol Basar Shem Kadsho Li'olam Va'ed Va'anachnu Nevarech Ya Me'atah v'ad olam. Hallelujah. We continue on page 63 with Psalm 150. Hallelujah, 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 el bekodsho, hallelujah, birkia uzo, hallelujah, bingvurotav. Hallelujah, Kerov Gudlo. Hallelujah, 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 beteka shofar. Hallelujah, benevel v'chinor. Hallelujah, betochu machol. Hallelujah, beminim ve'ugav. Hallelujah, 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 b'sil tzalei shama. Hallelujah, b'tzil tzalei truah, kol haneshama tehallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah, kol haneshama tehallelujah. Hallelujah, hallelujah. We will continue continue on page 67 with Nishmat Kol Chai. Shanah Tovah Sherry, nice to see you. So similar to what we did for Ashrei, I'm going to sing the opening, the petichta of the prayer, and it will give people time to say words, to be in just the words that we're singing, to be in the melody. Wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. Nishmat kol chai, tivarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Nishmat kol chai, tivarech et shimcha, Adonai Eloheinu. Yai dai 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 dai, yai yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai yai dai yai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai 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 dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai 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 yai. Were our mouths to fill with song as the sea, our tongues sing endlessly like waves, our lips offer praise like the limitless sky, our eyes shine like the sun and the moon, our arms spread heavenward like eagle's wings, and our feet run as fast as deer, we would still be unable to fully express our gratitude to you. Adonai, our God, and God of our ancestors, or to praise your name for even one of the myriad moments of kindness with which you have blessed our ancestors and us, of kindness which you have blessed our ancestors and us. Oh, we have two special deliveries to the Bima. Thank you, Susan. Excellent, excellent. Supplies are very key. Thank you to both of you for bringing very important things this morning. Shanah Tovah, Jim, nice to see you. We will continue on page 69, moving into Shacharit. We are starting at the top of page 69. Ha'el betatzmot uzacha hagadol bichvod shemacha hagibor lanetzach vehanora benorotecha HaMelech Yoshev al Kisei Ram v'Nisa Shochen ad Marom v'Kadosh Shemo v'Chatuv rananu tzadikim b'Adonai la'yesharim navatehila B'fi yesharim titramam, ubdirei tzadikim titbarach, uvilshon chasidim titkadash, uvekerev kedoshim titalal, uvamachala revavot amcha Yisrael beit Yisrael berina, yitpa'er shimcha malkeinu b'chol dor vador, shachen chovot kol hayetzurim lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Lehodo, lehalel, leshabeach, lefaer, leromem, lehader, levarech, le'ale, ulakales, al kol divrei, shira v'tish b'chot, David ben Ishai, avdecha meshichecha. Yishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu, ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol, v'ha'kadosh b'shamayim uva'aretz, ki lechana Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Shir ushvacha ha'el v'zimra, ozu memshala nesach gedula ugvura tehila v'tiferet kedusha u'malchot. Brachot v'hoda'ot me'ata v'yad olam, Baruch ata Adonai, El melech gadol b'tishbachot, El ha'hoda'ot, Adon ha'niflaot, Habocher b'shirei zimra, Melech elchei ha'olamim. Since we are not yet a minyan, and I say yet in hopes that we will be soon, we will begin our Shacharit service on page 72. And I'm going to read in English on the top of the page. With kindness you illumine the earth and all who dwell on it. In your goodness you renew creation day after day. How varied are your works, Adonai, all fashioned with wisdom. The world in its entirety is in your dominion. You alone ruled on high from the very beginning, praised, glorified, and exalted since earliest times. God of the universe, with your great kindness, have compassion on us. Master of our strength, protecting fortress, redeeming shield, be our stronghold. El Baruch Gadol De'ah, Hechenu Fal Zochorei Chama, Tov Yitzhak Kavod Lishmo, Me'oro Natan Zivot Uzo, Pino Sevav Kedoshim Romamei Shaddai, Tamin Mesaprim Kavod El Ukdushato, Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, El Shavach Maseh Yadecha, V'al Morei Or Shasita Yifaruch Hasela. We continue on page 75. Titbarach Sorena Malkeinu v'Goelenu Borei Kedoshim Yishtabach Shemcha Le'ad Malkeinu Yetzer Mesharatim V'Asher Mesharatav Kulam Omendim B'Rom Olam Umashmi'im B'Yira Yachad B'Kol Divrei Elohim Chaim U'Melech Olam Kulam Ahuvim Kulam Berorim Kulam Giborim V'Kulam Osim Be'ema U'V'Ira Ritzon Konam V'Kulam Potchim Et Pihem B'Kedusha U'V'Tahara B'Shira U'V'Zmira U'Mevarchim U'Mashbichim U'Mefa'arim U'Ma'aritzim U'Magdishim U'Mamlechim Et Shem Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol HaGibor V'Hanora Kadoshu V'Kulam Mekablim Aleihem Ol Malchut Shamayim Ze Mizeh V'Notnim Rishut Ze Lazeh Lahakdish Liotzram Benachat Ruach B'Safa V'Rura U'V'Nima Kedusha Kulam Kecharonim V'Omrim B'Yira Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Meloch Kol Haaretz Kevodo Va'ofanim v'chayot HaKodesh berash gadol mitnasim l'umantam serafim la'umantam meshabchim v'yomrim Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo La'el Baruch Nimi Yitenu L'melech El Chai V'Kayam Zmiro Yomeru V'Tishbachot Yashmiu Kihu Levado Po'el Gevurot Oseh Chadashot Ba'al Melchamot Zoreh Tzedakot Matzmiach Yeshua Borei Refuot Nora Tehilot Adon HaNiflaot HaMechadesh B'tuvo B'chol Yom Tamid Ma'aseh V'Reishit Ka'amor Le'oseh Orim Gedolim Ki Le'olam Chasto Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkeh Chulanu Mehera Le'oro Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzer HaMe'orot. We continue on page 76 with Ahava Rabbah. Please join me in singing. Ahava Rabbah Avtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chamla Gedola V'Yetera Chamata Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Ba'avor Avotenu V'Imotenu Shebatchu V'cha Avinu Malkeinu V'telamdem Chukei Chaim כן תכוננו ותמדנו, אבינו האב הרחמן, המרחם רחם עלינו, ותן בליבנו להבין ולהשכיל לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך באהבה. והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. Now is the moment to gather our tzitzit. V'havi'enu v'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz v'tolichenu k'momiot l'artzenu ki el po'al Yeshuat ata uvana v'charta mikolam v'lashon v'kerev tana l'shimcha hagadol sela be'amet lehodot lecha u'lechedcha be'ahava Baruch ata Adonai habocher bi'amo Yisrael bi'ahava. Please join me for the Shema on page 77. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ela asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha bebeitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvkumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. Please continue with the paragraphs after the Shema on your own, and I will chime in at various points and bring us back together soon. Vayomer Adonai Moshe Lemor Deber Bnei Yisrael V'Yamar Talim V'Sulam Tzitzit. Adonai Elohechem Emet V'Yatziv V'Nachol V'Kayim Yishtar לעד ולעולמי עולמים. ובתחת רצה We continue on page 80. If you are not there yet, you don't need to rush. You can stay where you are, and we will find each other sooner than later. Tehillah le'elyon baruch hu mevorach Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lecha anu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai mi chamocha nadar b'kodesh Nora tehillah osef eleh Shira chadasha shibchu geulim l'shimcha al sefat hayam yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Sur Yisrael koma be'ezrat Yisrael ufdechnu macha Yehuda ve'Yisrael Go aleinu Adonai tzevaot shemo kedosh Yisrael Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Give me one moment for a brief pause. We'll be back in a moment. We're just conferring about minhag hamakom. What is the custom that we're going to do in terms of not yet being a minyan? For the folks who are watching on live stream, this is a good moment to just say Shanah Tovah again and reintroduce myself. My name is Rabbi Rachel, and I am really happy to be here today at Worship and Study Minyan. Hopefully y'all are able to see, for those of you who are online, the different PDFs. Mike, are those up? Yeah, for the different prayer services, and hopefully they're labeled, and so you're able to follow along. It's definitely possible that not every single page is in the PDF, so if there are moments where you're not able to see the words, I invite you into patience and flow about that, and hopefully you'll be able to join us again. Yes, okay. Okay. So we are going to continue. Give me one more second. Okay. We are going to continue with the Amidah on page, we're going to do silent Amidah on pages 11 through 17, and then we will do the repetition after that. So people will have time on their own, and then I will bring us back together. Again, pages 11 through 17. Shanah Tovah. Nice to see you, Alana, in person. Thank you for being here. We will continue with the repetition of the Amidah on page 81. The ark is going to be opened, and if I haven't said this already, when I invite people to rise, it's an invitation, and do what's best for your body always, and that's the most important thing. So please join me on page 81 in just a moment. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ofi yagid zehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may speak your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei avotinu ve'imoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Zocher Chasdei Avot, Ve'imahot u'mevi, Goel Ibnei Bneihem Laman Shemo, Bi'ahava, Misod Hachamim Unbonim, U'milamed Da'at Mevinim, Eftechafi, V'tfilah, U'v'tachnunim, Lechalot u'lachem, Pnei Melech Hamlachim, Ve'adonai Ha'adonim. Zochreinu l'chaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, ve'et kotbenu b'sefer ha'chaim, lemancha Elohim chaim, lemancha Elohim chaim, Melech ozer ufoked u'Mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Abraham, Ufoked Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei metim atah Rav le'Hoshia. Mechalkel chaim bechesed, Mechayei metim berachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'rofech Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato lishenei afar, milchamocha ba'al gevurot umidom melach, melech meimit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua, milchamocha Avarachamim, Zocher Yitzrach l'chaim v'rachamim, V'na'aman atah l'chayot metim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hametim. Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohei ksiol, Ador v'ador, Hallelujah, V'atah kadosh Yoshev Tehilot Yisrael. Please join me on page 85. Uvachein lacha hakol yecharitu la'el orech din. Levochein levavot beyom din. Legolei amukot ba'adin. Ledover misharim לסולח לעם Musaf badin לעוני כרוע ביום דין לפועל רחמת badin לסופי נסתרו ביום דין לקוני עבדה badin לרחם עמו ביום דין לשומר אוהביו badin לתומך תמיבת ביום דין. We continue with the Kedusha on page 86. ובכן הלכת לקדושה כי אתה אלוהינו מלך נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוכו הארץ כבודו. אז בכל רעש גדול, אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול, מנסים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. במקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו, כי מחכים אנחנו לך, מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו, לעולם ועד תשכון. תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך, לדור ודור לנצח נצחים, ועינינו תראנה מלכותך, כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך, על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש. ושבחה אל אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה. You may be seated. We continue on page 87, and for some of you who were here on whenever the first night was of Rosh Hashanah, I can't now remember what day it was, because that's how my brain works. I spoke a little bit about a line from the part of the Amidah that we're about to read. I talked about Chulam Agudat Echat, this one spiritual unit that Rabbi Alan Liu translates that, Zichrono Livracha, that he translates those few words to mean. And I want to read, instead of reading the Hebrew, I want to read in English the Abraham Joshua Heschel that's on the left side of page 87. And I think these two things in conversation with each other give a really beautiful idea of what oneness can look like in a very eclectic and multifaceted and pluralistic way. Is it really our desire to build a monolithic society? One party, one view, one leader, and no opposition? Is religious uniformity desirable or even possible? Does not the task of preparing the kingdom of God require a diversity of talents, a diversity of rituals, soul-searching as well as opposition? Perhaps it is the will of God that in this eon there should be diversity in our forms of devotion and commitment to God. We continue on page 88. Kadosh v'ata v'norah shimcha v'ein Elohai mibaladecha kakatuv v'yagvir Adonai tzava'ot b'mishpat v'ha'el hakadosh nikdash b'tzedaka baruch ata Adonai hamelech hakadosh אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו ורמונתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, בשמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה את יום הזיכרון הזה, יום תרועה מקרה קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, יעלה ויבוא ויגיע וירא וירצה וישמע ויפקד ויזכר זיכרוננו פיקדוננו וזיכרון אבותינו ואמותינו וזיכרון משיח בן דוד עבדך וזיכרון ירושלים עיר קודשך וזיכרון כל עמך בית ישראל לפניך לפלצה לטובה לחן ולחסד ולרחמים לחיים ולשלום ביום הזיכרון הזה ביום הזיכרון הזה זוכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה ופוקדנו בו לברכה והושיענו בו לחיים ודבר יהושע ורחמים חוס וחננו ורחם עלינו והושיענו כי אל אחינו כי אל מלכנו ברחום אתה. We continue on page 89. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו מלוך על כל העולם כולם בכבודך והינשא על כל הארץ בקרעך והופע והדר גאונותך על כל יושבי תבל ארצך וידע כל פעול כל אתה פעלתו ויבין כל יצור כי אתה יצרתו ויאמר כל אשר נשמה באפו אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך מלכותו בכל משלה אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך צבנו מטובך ושמחנו בשועתך וטהר ליבנו לעובדך באמת כי אתה אלוהים אמת ודברך אמת וקיים לעד ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל ויום הזיכרון רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ובתפילתם והשב את העבודה לדביר ביתך וישי ישראל ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ברצון ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל עמך ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון ברחמים ברוך אתה אדוני המחזיר שכינתו לציון מודים אנחנו לך ואתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו לעולם ועד צור חיינו מגן ישנו אתה הוא לדור ודור נודה לך נספר תהילתך על חיינו המסורים בידך ועל נשמותינו הפקודות לך ועל ניסך שבכל יום עמנו ועל נפלותך ותחותך שבכל עת ערב ובוקר וצהריים הטוב כי לא כולו רחמך והמרחם כי לא תמו חסדך מעולם קיווינו לך ועל כולם יפרח ותרומם שמך מלכנו תמיד לעולם ועד. On the bottom of page 90 וכתוב לחיים טובים כל בני בריתך וכל החיים ידעו חסלה והללו את שמך באמת האל ישועתנו ועזרתנו סלה ברוך אתה אדוני הטוב שמך ולך נאה להודות אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו ברכנו בברכה המשולשת בתורה הכתובה על ידי משה עבדך האמור מפי אהרון ובניו כהנים עם קדושך כאמור יברכך אדוני וישמרך Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol Yisrael amecha barchenu avinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha ki be'or panecha Natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torah Chaim v'avad chesed u'tzedaka u'racha v'rachamim v'chayim v'shalom v'tov b'necha levrachat amcha Yisrael b'chol eitz u'b'chol sha'a b'shlomecha B'sefer Chaim b'racha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amcha b'Yisrael lechaim tovim u'leshalom L'chaim tovim u'leshalom Baruch ata Adonai Oseh HaShalom. If you are able to rise in body or spirit, please join me for Avinu Malkeinu. The ark will be open. Thank you, Susan. You sure? We will read on our own, and I will call us together in reading aloud for the phrases that are bolded. Avinu Malkeinu chatanu lefanecha, Avinu Malkeinu ein lanu melech v'liata, Avinu Malkeinu eseimanu leman shemecha, Avinu Malkeinu chadesh aleinu Shanah Tovah, Avinu Malkeinu batel aleinu kol v'kashot, Avinu Malkeinu batel Avinu Malkeinu Hachazirenu B'tshuva Shalema Lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu Shalach Refuah Shalema Lechol Amecha Avinu Malkeinu Zochrenu B'zichron Tov Lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'sefer Chayim Tovim Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'sefer Geula V'Yeshua Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'sefer Parnasa V'Chalkala Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'sefer Zechuyot Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'sefer Slicha U'Mechila Avinu Malkeinu Atzamach Lana Yeshua Bekarov Avinu Malkeinu Harem Karen Yisrael Amecha Avinu Malkeinu Harem Karen Mishichacha Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu Chus V'Rachem Aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Kabel Barachamim Uveratzon Et Tefilatenu Avinu Malkeinu Na'el Teshivenu Rekam Lefanecha Avinu Malkeinu Zachor Ki Afar Anachnu Avinu Malkeinu Chamol Aleinu Ve'al Ol Aleinu V'Tapenu Avinu Malkeinu Aseliman Harugim Al Shem Kodshecha Avinu Malkeinu Aseliman Tivuchim Al Yichudecha Avinu Malkeinu Aseliman Ba'e Ba'esh Uvamayim Al Kedusha Shemecha Avinu Malkeinu Aseliman Chaim Lo Lema'anenu Please join me for the bolded part of Avinu Malkeinu on the top of page 93. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu ve'anenu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu va'anenu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, ve'hoshienu. Please remain standing if you're able for Kaddish Shalem on page 94. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabba bi'alma livrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayeichon u'v'yomeichon u'v'chayei kol beit Yisrael b'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba mevorach li'olam yomei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala Shemei l'kudashah brichu le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram v'yalma v'imru amen. Titkabel tzotahon u'votahon dichol Yisrael kodam avuhon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imromav u'yaseh shalom aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yal kol Yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. It's nice to see some more faces this morning. Really, really nice to see people in 3D in person. Thank you for showing up, for being present, for joining the singing. And we are going to continue with the Torah service, which Susan is going to be in charge of. And the Torah service begins on page 96, and just give me one moment or two.
Okay, Shanah Tovah. The Torah service begins on page 96. Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai v'ein kamasecha malchutecha malchut kol amim umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz yamah Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom av harachamim heitiv avirtzonecha et Zion tivnech amot Yerushalayim tivnech Yerushalayim ki v'cha levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisa adon olamim. Please rise if you're able. Vayehi bin soha Aaron vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai v'yafutzu oivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah u'davar Adonai Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Li'amo Yisrael B'kedushato Adonai Adonai El Rachum v'chanun Erech Apayim V'rav Chesed v'emet Notzer Chesed l'alafim Nosei Aon v'fesha v'chata'a v'nakei Adonai Adonai El Rachum v'chanun Erech Apayim V'rav Chesed v'emet Notzer Chesed l'alafim Nosei Aon v'fesha v'chata'a v'nakei Adonai Adonai El Rachum v'chanun Erech Apayim V'rav Chesed v'emet Notzer Chesed l'alafim Nosei Aon v'fesha v'chata'a v'nakei Yiyu l'ratzon imrefi v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri v'goali va'ani tefilati lecha Adonai et ratzon Elohim b'rav chasdecha aneni aneni be'emet ishecha chastecha, aneni, aneni, be'emet ishecha, va'ani tefilati, lecha Adonai, ein ratzon, Elohim, b'rav chastecha, aneni, aneni, be'emet ishecha. Do we have a second Torah carrier? Page 98. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah Shemo. Gadol Adonai iti, v'neromah Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai, Hagdula v'hagvura v'hativeret v'hanetzach v'hahod. Ki kol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz, ki kol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Lecha Adonai ha'mamlacha v'hamid na'aseh lechol Rosh. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, lehadam raglav kadoshu. Romamu, Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, lehar kadsho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
For those who are, that's probably just my water bottle mark. For those who are tuning in on the live stream, there should be a PDF marked. Maybe Mike, you can help me out. Is there one called Torah? Okay, great. The second PDF. So in case that wasn't clear already, just wanted to point you to that so that you can follow along. We are going to be doing the Torah reading for the second day, as today is the second day of Rosh Hashanah, which is on page 103. And Mike, is there a special trick for turning on this microphone?
It's on the top.
On the top? Push the button. Hello? Hello?
Oh, there we go. Okay. Whoa. So here's the picture.
Wait, not yet, I have to call her.
I know.
V'yazor v'yagin v'yoshia l'chol hasimbo v'nomar amen. Hakol havu godel le'Eloheinu chavod laTorah. Ta'amod. I am v'shifra but. What's your name?
My name is Rivka.
Rivka bat Chaim v'shifka hakohen. Baruch shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Adonai Elohim, Chaim Kochem, Hayom.
You can read it or chant it. Baruch Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. We're on page 103.
Amen. Vayehi achar hadvarim ha'eleh v'ha'Elohim nisa et Abraham. Vayomer elav Abraham, vayomer hineni. Vayomer kafna et bincha et yechidcha asher ahavta et Yitzchak. V'lech lecha el eretz hamoria. V'halehu sham le'ola al Achad arim asher omar elecha. Vayashkem Abraham baboker. Vayachavosh et chamuro v'yikach et shnei ne'arav ito v'et Yitzchak beno. Vayavaka atzei ola. Vayakom vayelech el hamakom asher amar lo Elohim.
Just read that. Yes. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayei olam natah b'tokenu Baruch Ata Adonai noten ha'torah. Shakah. I'm going to stand right there. Where Sherry is. You should say Shachar.
First in Leah, she's turned 75 yesterday, first time she's ever done that.
Mazel tov. So do we have a Levi or a Bat Levi other than the known ones?
And no
Anna?
ones.
May I call you? We're on page 104. Ta'amod. Ilana Rachel bat Abraham v'Shoshana Halevi.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Barak le'olam va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
השלישי, וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא את המקום מרחוק. ויאמר אברהם אל נעריו, שבו לכם פה עם החמור, ואני והנער נלכה עד כה, ונשתחווה ונשובה עליכם. ויקח אברהם את עצי העולה, וישם על יצחק בנו, ויקח בידו את האש ואת המאכלת, וילכו שניהם יחדיו. ויאמר יצחק אל אברהם אביו, ויאמר אביו, ויאמר הנני בני, ויאמר הנה האש והעצים ואעשה לעולה. ויאמר אברהם אלוהים, ירא לו עשה לעולה בני, וילכו שניהם יחדיו.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Ya'amod. Moshe ben Zev v'Rivka Shlishi. We're on page 104.
Baruch Adonai Borach Olam Vaed. Amen. Vayavo el hamakom asher amar lo Elohim, ויבן שם אברהם את המזבח, ויערוך את העצים, ויקוד את יצחק בנו, וישם אותו על המזבח ממעל העצים. וישלח אברהם את ידו, ויקח את המאכלת לשחוט את בנו. ויקרא אליו מלאך אדוני מן השמיים, ויאמר אברהם אברהם. ויאמר הנני, ויאמר אל תשלח ידך אל הנער ואל תעש לו מאומה, כי אתה ידעתי, כי הרי אלוהים אתה, ולא חשפת את בנך את יחידך ממני. וישא אברהם את עיניו, וירא הנה איל ההר, נחס בספח בקרניו. וילך אברהם ויקח את האיל, ויעלהו לעולה תחת בנו. ויקרא אברהם שם המקום ההוא אדוני ראה, אשר יאמר היום בהר אדוני יראה. Amen.
For what? No. Okay. Oh, she doesn't know. She's last one. No. Okay.
call you.
Oh, yeah.
Ta'amod.
Naftalia Gittel.
Rav Naftalia Gittel.
Bat Libi Yehudit.
Bat Libi Yehudit.
Vibarach Lev.
V'barach Lev Revi'i.
Everybody had to have two. Is it Vikra? Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
אמן. ויקרא מלאך אדוני אל אברהם שנית מן השמיים, ויאמר בי נשבעתי נאום אדוני, כי יען אשר עשית את הדבר הזה, ולא חסכת את בנך את יחידך, כי יברך אברכך והרבה את זרעך ככוכבי השמיים וכחול אשר על שפת הים, וירש זרעך את שער אויביו, ויתברכו בזרעך כל גויי הארץ, עקב אשר שמעת בקולי. וישוב אברהם אל נעריו, ויקומו וילכו יחדיו אל באר שבע, וישב אברהם בבאר שבע.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch ata Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Yeah, there's Joe over here. She needs help. Yeah, she needs her side. How about two? Our pleasure.
Go to the other side.
All the treatments around here.
Queen.
First you have to tell me.
Yeah, we're gonna
walk you through it. First you have to tell me your Hebrew name and your parents' Hebrew names. And your parents? What was your mother's English name? Berenice. Ta'amod, Esther Bat Hillel Berenice Hamishi. Kiss the Torah. So touch there. Touch with the toes. Yeah. And then kiss that. Can you read the Hebrew or do you need the transliteration? Okay, so read this line first.
Baruch Adonai
Hamavorach. Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Read it again.
Baruch Adonai
Hamavorach.
Olam Va'ed.
And this.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
I'm just stand here.
Okay. אמן. ויהי אחרי הדברים האלה, ויוגד לאברהם לאמור, הנה ילדה מילכה גם היא בנים לנחור אחיך, את עוץ בכורו ואת בוז אחיו, ואת כמואל אבי ארם, ואת כסד ואת חזור, ואת פלדש ואת עדלה, ואת בתואל. ובתואל ילד את רבקה, 8 אלה ילדה מילכה לנחור אחי אברהם. ופילגשו ושמה ראומה, ותלת גם היא את טבח ואת גחם, ואת תחש ואת מאחה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayet olam natan v'koheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah. Well, I think I'll just,
I gotta stand here for the...
oh, that's fine, standing is fine.
So, stand and... I'm standing this way. I just want to say we had a couple firsts this morning. Our Kohen Aliyah and our Hamishi Aliyah were both first-time Aliyah.
Yes,
Mazel tov.
which is amazing.
So at this point in the service, we say a Mishaberach, a prayer for those who are ill.
And actually, Susan, if it's okay with you, can I, right before the Mishaberach for Cholim, can I do a Mishaberach for everyone who was called up to the Torah? I think especially because we had 2 really big firsts today, I want to honor them and celebrate them. I absolutely love when anyone gets called up to the Torah for the first time. I especially love it when it's folks who maybe didn't have access to that in the past. So I'm just feeling a lot of warm fuzzies for many reasons this morning, that being one of them. May the one who blessed our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless all those who have ascended today to honor God, the Torah, and the day of judgment. May the Holy Blessed One protect them and their entire families, bring blessing and success to all the works of their hands, and inscribe and seal them for a good life on this day of judgment, together with all their fellow Jews. And together we say, Amen. And now Susan is going to explain the custom of how the blessing for healing works.
So it's our custom usually to have people gather up front, but given the circumstances, if anybody would like to name someone, please just rise in your seats and we'll go around the room. Jim?
David ben Bela, Greg Bradman, Ronit bat Miriam ואהרון,
מרגלית בת רחל ויוסף, שושנה בת רחל ויוסף, יונה בת אברהם, מרים בת רחל ויעקב, רבקה בת רחל ויעקב, ג'ורדנה and יונה רוזנמן.
Geraldine, Jonathan, and Tom are Dane, my stepbrother, James, and my sister-in-law.
Ann, do you? The prayer's on page 115.
115. Yep. You want to do it, Susan?
No, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah, go ahead.
We can have a nice contest up here. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et kol hacholim v'Yasir mehem kol machala v'Yishlach b'mheira refuah shalema refuat hanefesh urefuat haguf v'Yishlach bracha v'hatzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yedehem im kol Yisrael V'nomar Amen. May the one who bless our ancestors, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, bless all those who are ill, and remove from them any sickness. Send complete healing both in body and in spirit, and send blessing and good fortune to all the work of their hands, and to all the people Israel, and to all people everywhere. And let us say Amen. So now we're going to
lift the first Torah
and then wrap it.
and wrap it.
Because we get to do a maftir in a totally different part of the Torah. So we have 2 Torahs on Rosh Hashanah.
Kai, would you like to? No. No?
To wrap?
Great.
Yes, great. So we have a wrapper. Yes. So Ellen, I'm going to help you come back down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yamdu, Hamagvia, Vahagol, let's say Rishon.
We'll have an exiting and an entering. It's perfect. Already standing. Once the Torah is lifted, please rise. That's okay.
V'zod ha'Torah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah.
Torah, Torah, Torah.
No, you sit with that. You sit with it.
Okay. So we now get to read out of the second Torah because we are in a totally different part of the Torah. So instead of having to take all the time to roll it, we have 2 different Torahs. We're now in the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. And excuse me. Are you going to do?
Either I or Adam can do this.
Great.
What, lift it?
Yeah.
Oh, so I'll stay.
Adam, I can get that.
You can get suited.
That's what you meant. Sorry.
Nan
So much
just
confusion over here. So the maftir can be found in the Siddur on page 106.
Okay, you can
Yes.
you can sit down.
Oh, okay, great.
Rest
Although
your
I
feet.
can't I'm standing for Ellen,
Oh, okay.
but I'll stop talking.
That's all right.
Well, I don't even know where it is. Oh,
It should be,
you know where it
you read it yesterday.
is? Well, yeah. Here we go.
non-Levant.
Okay?
All right.
Okay. Yamod,
Chaim Yaakov.
Chaim Yaakov,
Ben Simcha V'Batya Halevi.
Ben Simcha V'Batya, Amaftir Halevi. Wait, you need the mic because you're like.
Baruch Hu Adonai, Barach. Baruch Adonai, Barach Olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu Melech Haolam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai, Noten HaTorah. Amen. Chodesh HaShvi'i be'echad lachodesh. Mikra Kodesh yeh lachem, kol malechet avodah lo ta'asu. Yom Shmu'a yeh lachem. V'asitem olah l'reach nichoach l'Adonai. Par ben bakar echad ayo echad. Kivasim b'nei shana shivat mimim. Umin chatam soleg b'lulav shamen. Shlosha esronim lapar. Shnei esronim la'ayo. Ve'isaron echad v'keves ha'echad. L'shivat ha'kvasim. Useir izim echad chatat. L'chaper alechem milvad olat hachodesh uminchata ve'olat hatamid uminchata v'niskehem k'mishpatam l'reach nichoach ishel Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Now, Jim is going to say the Birkat Gomel on page 107, and there is a response that we give at the bottom of the page.
Blessing, so I can read it too. Okay. Thank you. Our tradition has a special blessing that people have the opportunity to make on those happy occasions when they have survived a challenging experience, whether it's returning safely from a dangerous voyage or recovering from a significant illness. And I am lucky on the latter count in that I had a detachment of the retinas in both of my eyes and required a series of surgeries, and also glaucoma developed. And all of this has now under control and has restored my functioning of my vision. And I can feel like I've really turned the corner, and it's a great blessing for me, and I offer this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hagomel l'chayavim tovot, shegemalani kol tov.
Selah. Adam, are you going to Yamdu, Hagmadia v'Hagolel Sefer Sheni. V'zot HaTorah asher sham Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Torah tzivanu Moshe. Torah
what did I do with the yard?
What do we do with the yachts? You want to take them or put them on the floors? Jim, careful.
I'd like you to take it.
I'm not being services Saturday.
Who's going to be at service?
Okay, we'll decide that later.
Yes, let's deal with that later.
I'm the champion of the yard.
Okay. Moving right along to the Haftorah. Jim is going to do double duty. He read the Torah portion for himself. Now he's going to read the Haftorah, which is found on page 111 of your Machzor. I'm sorry, I just tightened it. You want to hold this, Jim? I think this is the best mic, because you really need a good mic. It is possible to clip it to your shirt, but
Sure.
I find it's easier to hold it. Say something.
Something.
Okay, good.
Okay.
And the blessings are on page... Where's the blessings?
It's on the top of page 111, right before the actual Haftorah.
Oh, the top of page 111, right before the actual Torah. You want people to chant the blessings with you or not?
Doesn't matter. Baruch, yeah, you can all chant with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratzah b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek. Ko amar Adonai matzachen b'midbar am serite charev haloch lehargi o Yisrael merachok Adonai nirali ve'avat olam avticha al ken meshachti chased od evnech v'nivneit b'tulat Yisrael od ta'adi tupayech v'yatzat b'machol nesachakim Oh, titich ramim b'harei shomron natu notim v'chilelu ki yesh yom karu notrim behar Ephraim kumu v'nalet Zion el Adonai Eloheinu ki cho amar Adonai Urono Yaakov simcha v'tzahalu v'rosh hagoyim hashmihu halalu v'imru hosha Adonai et amcha et sherit Yisrael Hinani mevi'otam me'eretz Afon V'kibatzim meyarketei aretz bam iver ufi seach harav yoledet yachdav kahal gadol yashuvu hena b'vchi yavohu uvetachanunim ovilem Olichem el nachalei mayim b'terech yashar lo yakashlu va ki hayiti liYisrael le'av ve'Ephraim bechori hu shimu dvar Adonai goyim ve'hagidu va'im me'merchak v'imru Mizare Yisrael Yekabsenu Ushimaro Kiro Edro Kifada Adonai Et Yaakov Uke Allah Miad Chazak Mimenu Uva'u V'rinenu Bimrom Sion V'naharu El Tuv Adonai Al Dagan V'al Tirosh V'al Yitar V'al B'netzon Uvakar V'haita Nafsham Kigan Raveh V'lo Yosifu L'Dahavad Az Tismach Betula B'machol U'bachurim Uzkenim Yachdav V'hafachti Evlam L'sason V'nichamtim V'simachtim Migonam V'riveti Nefesh HaKohanim Da'ashen Ve'ami Etuvi Yisba'u Ne'um Adonai Ko Amar Adonai Ko V'ramaha Nishmaha Neti B'chi Tamrurim Rachel Mevaka Al Baneha Me'ana Lehinachem Al Baneha Ki Einenu Ko Amar Adonai Minihi Kolech Mi Bechi Ve'enayich Mi Timaha Ki Yisachar Lefulatech Ne'um Adonai V'shavu Me'eretz Oyev V'yesh tichva la'achritech Ne'um Adonai V'shavu Vanim Legvulam Shamati Ephraim Mitnoded Yisartani V'ivaser Ke'egel Lo Lumad Hashiveni Ve'ashuva Ki Ata Adonai Elohai Ki Acharei Shuvini Chamti Ve'acharei Hivadi Safakti Al Yarech Boshti Ve'gam Niklamti Ki Nesati Cherpat Me'urai Haben Yakir Li Ephraim Im Yeled Sha'ashu'im Ki Midei Dabri Baho Zachor Eskarenu Od Al Kein Hamu Me'ai Lo Rachem Arachmenu Ne'um Adonai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Tzur Kol Amim Tzaddik V'Kol Adorot Ha'el HaNe'eman Ha'omer V'Yoseh Hamdaberum Kayem Shekol Devarav Emet V'Tzedek Ne'eman Atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim Devarecha V'devarecha B'dvarecha Achor Lo Yashuv Rekam Ki El Melech Ne'eman V'rachaman Atah Baruch Atah Adonai Ha'el HaNe'eman B'chol Devarav Rachem Al Tzion Ki Beit Chayenu V'lagu Bat Nefesh Toshia B'meirav Yameinu Baruch Atah Adonai V'sameach Zion B'vanecha Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu V'Eliyahu Hanavi Avdecha U'v'malchut Beit David Meshichecha B'mheira Yavo V'yagel Libeinu Al Kiso Lo Yeshev Zar V'lo Yincha Lo Od Acherim Et Kevotahu Ki V'shem Kodsheka Nishbata Lo Shelo Yachber Neiro Le'olam Va'ed Baruch Atah Adonai Magen David Al HaTorah V'al Avodah V'al Hanviim al yom hazikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lichavod ol tifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach Yibarach Shemcha b'fi kol chai tamid li'olam va'ed u'devarcha emet v'kayam la'ad Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol ha'aretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron.
Susan's going to come up and we're going to finish the Torah service. With the Torah Sound. A brief discussion. Yes, I know. I wanted to start the Shofar Service at 1:15. Yes, great. So, yeah, this is, I want to get that goal for sure. So, how long the discussion is supposed to have? Maybe like, yeah, okay, great. Okay. Always conferring that happens. Can you all hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? Oh, wonderful. Okay. So hard to know with the lawnmowers and the other holiday treats that are happening outside. I wasn't sure who could hear what. So, as is the hallmark of worship and study, Minyan, we're going to take a short bit of time to have a discussion about what we read in the Torah portion and the Haftorah, and it's a very important part of being together in this minyan is getting to share thoughts and do some study on text. And so I invite folks who want to share a thought to, let me just remind myself. So Mike, this camera down here goes to the video. Right, yes, that is what you said. And I said you're going to have to remind me, and I was right, because can only hold so many things in the brain, as I said, I think, earlier. So if folks want to share something about the Parsha, I'm going to pretend to be a cruise director, and you can just raise your hand, and I will walk around and hand you, or point the microphone in your direction, and we will do it that way. So I'm going to come down, because that's more fun. This is so much better to be close by to you. So any thoughts that anybody wants to share about the Torah reading, about the Haftorah? The floor is open. Do I want to kick them off or something? I can, but I don't need to. Did you have a thought? Great.
So Maury yesterday talked about, are we doing well? Are we doing better? Okay. Yesterday you talked about Abraham's options regarding dismissing Hagar. And I have one, you said he was a wealthy man. He could have sent her back to her homeland with an adequate portion for her and for Ishmael. And why didn't he do that? And I think it might not have been out of ignorance or foolishness or greed, but that if he sent her back, she would be a disgraced concubine. She would have no status there or very low status. If he sends her to the wilderness, there's an option for something better. Maybe a passing caravan will find her and Ishmael. Maybe an angel will come and help out. So that one gave him more options. There was certainty and probability. which is where I thought you were going, leading it back to the pandemic and COVID and various risks you take when you calculate certainty and probability.
Thank you, Nan, for sharing that. I love hearing different possibilities in general when it comes to what is actually written in the text and being able to drash, to extrapolate in creative ways and thoughtful ways. And I especially love extrapolation when it involves women in the Torah and what else might be going on for them, instead of just kind of sticking to such a narrow reading, because I don't like anybody to be boxed in, and I definitely don't like the way that sometimes women can be boxed in the Torah. And thinking about Hagar as having more possibilities, that feels really interesting and expansive in a way that I hadn't thought about before. So thank you for that. Other folks want to share about yesterday's reading today? Oh, Alana, amazing.
I have to say, I never am able to reconcile with the idea that Abraham did not argue with God over the idea of sacrificing his son. We know he's capable because he did do that for Lot, but he wouldn't do that for his own son. So I think that, just given Maury's comments yesterday about whether or not he failed the test or didn't fail the test, I don't know about failing the test with God, but in my book, he failed the test as a father, to not even argue about not sacrificing his own son. And going back to other talks that we had in these congregations, there are other ways in which kids are being sacrificed for parents' ambitions, ideas, ideologies. And I think that's something that is always perplexed me. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Thank you, Alana. I have lots of thoughts about it. I just want to recap what you said and appreciate the fierceness in a good way with how you expressed your opinion. Do you and Mark have kiddos? I don't know this about you. You do? Okay. You have 2 sons. Right. So what I thought I heard in your response was a fierce mama, caretaking, just loving, total, bafflement as to how this could happen. And I really need and appreciate when people can bring that fierceness to the text and say, what is this? I don't understand. How could this possibly be? Because for me, that's an opening of how do we dive into that question, that fierceness, that just really lack of being able to reconcile it, and what can we find in that opening? So thank you for bringing your full self to that question. It helps me connect with the text more, and I hope it helps others as well. Nan, did you want to say something else? Sherry, I'm going to give it to Sherry, and then if there aren't other folks, we can circle back to you.
Well, I agree with what Ilana said about the sacrifice, and that Abraham didn't argue. But I think what's most striking about that passage is when Abraham says, Hinani. And that's what's counted. That's what counts. Not that he was willing to make the sacrifice, but that he was willing to be present. And that here we are, ourselves, Hinani, today.
I guess this may be obvious to other people, but just now is the first time that I thought of the fact that when Abraham goes to sacrifice Isaac, he already has a bad record because he already sacrificed Ishmael. And so Isaac's going to be the second son who has been abandoned by his father. And also, as I was thinking that, I was also struck by the fact that in the middle of the psalm that we say on Yom Kippur is the verse, is the line, even though my father and my mother abandoned me, God will gather me up. And I just wonder, I don't really think that those are connected, but I wonder if there's some kind of meta connection there.
That's beautiful, Dave. For folks who maybe either didn't hear or weren't sure what Dave was referencing, I believe that you're talking about the line in Psalm 27, which is not said just on Yom Kippur. It's actually said for the entire month of Elul, the month preceding Rosh Hashanah, and it's said twice a day, from the start of Elul until Sukkot in some communities. And so I believe that most things are connected, and so I love putting that line in conversation with the parsha that we just read and thinking about what does it mean if one of our primary source texts, or two of our primary source texts for this time of year, is about parents abandoning children in different ways. Like, I'm thinking about the psychosocial pieces of that. Like, what are the ways in which, people need to learn how to parent themselves, take care of themselves, whatever it may be, but just this idea that abandonment is so central, it can be read that way, depending on how one thinks of the story with Avram. Like, I don't, it's just really striking. I'm so glad that you made that connection for me. Yes, lots of connected pieces. Maury, yes. We're going to take one more comment after this. So if you haven't spoken yet and you're itching to say something, let me know.
Just to add one more abandonment. Hannah abandoned Shmuel, as soon as he's weaned. The son who one prays for and is despondent that one can't have, one decides to leave at the temple gates, or Shiloh, almost immediately.
Thank you, Maury. I can hear some of my teachers in my head, so I can't leave this thought without just putting it out there, even though it's not something that I feel able to connect to, and I really resonate with Maury's example and with what Alana shared, and even what Dave was saying, that one way to read it is abandonment, and I feel, and I'm going to talk about this actually before we start Musaf, but another way, kind of I don't know if it's exactly the flip side, but another side of it is this intense offering to God, which is really, for me in 2021, very, 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 very difficult to wrap my mind around in any way, shape, or form. And so how do we square those two things? Can it be both? Does it have to be one or the other? And how do we, continue to think about these two concepts and understand, even try to understand what might impel someone to be able to give of a child in that way. As someone who doesn't have kids, it's a little bit harder for me to make that leap beyond just the theological implications, and still it's a really, I think, important question to grapple with, of what each of us is willing to do in terms of what we're willing to offer or give up in able to have a relationship with God. Which is, I think, wonderful fodder for this time of year in general, when we're thinking about returning and wholeness and just the whole process of tshuva. Because that's a process not just between us and other people. I also believe that it's a process between us and God. And so thinking about, I want to leave us with that thought of what is the tshuva that this might spark for us, of what kinds of repair might we want to do or might feel necessary in our relationship with God. I would hope that we don't feel abandoned, and that we can begin to grapple more with what sacrifices we're willing to make, if any. So I'm going to close the discussion there, and we will, my brain just, yes, shofar, thank you. You know this happens, like every time I lead, I look at you and I'm like, what are we doing next? It's always helpful for me to have many more brains than just mine. So it is my absolute pleasure to get to connect with Adam again. He did the ginormous mitzvah of coming over to Brookline yesterday to blow shofar when our shofar blower could not do it at the last minute. And so Adam, if you'll come up in just a moment, that would be wonderful. The Shofar Service can be found on page 119, if you want to stick a finger there. And I just want to read you a kavanah, an intention, that really is one of my favorite pieces from this time of year. Give me one sec to put this in. Okay. It's hot. Why did they make talis wool? I do not understand. Okay, so before the shofar service, I want to share a teaching on shofar from one of my teachers, Rabbi Art Green. The message of our days of awe is that there's a possibility of return, of coming home. This dream of restored wholeness is sounded out dramatically by the shofar blasts, the central symbolic expression of the tshuva season. The shofar sound represents prayer beyond words, an intensity of longing that can be articulated only in the wordless shout. But the order of the sounds, according to one old interpretation, contains the message in quite explicit terms. Each series of shofar blasts begins with tekiah, a whole sound. It is followed by shvarim, a tripartite sound whose very name means breakings. I started off whole, the shofar speech says, and I became broken. Then follows tru'ah, a staccato series of blast fragments saying, I was entirely smashed to pieces. But each series has to end with a new tekiah, promising wholeness once more. The shofar cries out 100 times on Rosh Hashanah. I was whole, I was broken, even smashed to bits, but I shall be whole again. Adam, if you would come up, we will begin the shofar blowing on page 119. Where would you like to be? Yeah. Is that good? Yeah. Okay. That's okay. Do you want my siddur, or I need one? I'm sorry, did I mess up? What? No, there's a bit of text to do before. Oh, I was gonna skip it. Okay, cool. Okay, great. Do you want me to say nothing? That would be awesome, yes.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'shmoa kol shofar.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו בזמן הזה.
Amen, amen, amen. Tekiah. Shvarim truah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shvarim truah. Tekiah. Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah Gedolah. Yasher Koach, Adam, that was beautiful. Really, really beautiful. I hope that the shofar was able to help you connect to both the wholeness and the brokenness together. We will continue on page 121 with the conclusion of the Torah service and returning of the Torahs to the Ark. Susan, do you want to do it?
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki nishkav shemo levado. All eretz v'shamayim, vayarem kerem yamo, tila lecho chasidah, livnei Yisrael amkrovo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. David Mizmor Adonai haaretz u'meloa tevel v'yoshvei v'aki u'al yamim yesada v'yaleh harav yechonanecha mi'aleh v'har Adonai u'mi'yakum b'kom kachol nekicha pa'im u'var levav asher lo nasala sham nafshi v'lo nishba l'mirma yisam racham eid Adonai ustakam Elohei yishoseh dor shav mevakshe fanecha Yaakov selah she'ari rashechem v'hi
been so clean in their whole lives. I really wouldn't be able to function without Susan, in case that wasn't clear. Okay. Great, that's going to stay. Okay. We will do the Chatzi Kaddish. I never remember worship and study. No Chatzi Kaddish. Okay. Great. We will not do the Chatzi Kaddish. You can be seated. We're going to stand in a few moments, but I just wanted to share some intentions, some thoughts about Musaf before we get there. Excuse me, just give you a view of what is going to happen. So instead of doing a silent Amidah and then a repetition, we're going to do the Musaf all together. And so I invite you into that newness, and I'm sure for some that will be okay. I'm sure for others it might be uncomfortable. I invite you into the discomfort with ease, and hope that you can experiment and enjoy in ways that whatever is available to you. And the only other thing technically that I wanted to share is that it is my expressed intention to be done by 12:30. Information is helpful for many people just to gauge things, and so I just wanted to note that that is for sure my plan. And so far we're totally on schedule, which just very rarely happens, so I feel very hopeful and happy. So with that, I wanted to share some thoughts about Musaf. As many of you, I'm sure, know, Musaf is this additional offering that we get to do on special occasions. I think of it as the icing on the cake. It's another opportunity to give praise, to sing, to grapple with text, and I look forward to being in that together. And specifically, the Musaf on Rosh Hashanah is unlike any other in that it has these three categories. It has Malchuyot, Zichronot, and Shofarot. And again, another teaching from my teacher, Rabbi Art Green. He describes the three sections this way, and for me it's been really helpful to hold on to these teachings as I move through these prayers. So Malchuyot, he translates as God's sovereignty, which makes sense, but specifically talks about it as our submission to God. So thinking about the conversation we just had, how could Abraham sacrifice his son? How could Hannah give up her son? This idea of submission, I think, fits in that category of, is it abandonment? Is it an offering? Where is submission in there? Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. And so this concept of how do we, I'm going to read you his writing because he's more articulate than I, but how do we conceive of this idea of submission? Zichronot, he describes as God's remembering. Judaism talks about remembering all of the time. It's in so many of our prayers. It's such a fundamental part of how we are who we are today and how we move through the world. And so this idea of what does it mean to speak about God's remembering? And then the last section, Shofarot, he describes as God's calling. So thinking about, with the shofar, what is God calling us to do? So at the beginning of each section, I'm going to read his writing, and we'll do some of the tefillot, some of the prayers together, and I hope that it will add meaning to the end of the service. So this is what he says on Malchuyot. The line, Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed, God reigns, God has reigned, and God will reign forever, is found here in this section and several other places in the Machzor, but does not appear anywhere in the Bible. In its early formulation of Jewish liturgy, as it was first emerging in the post-biblical era. It is a statement on the eternal and unchanging truth that our faith proclaims. There is a one who stands behind all being, whose life force permeates all that exists. The one that existed before creation and will be here after all of us are gone. Each of us creatures are varied and unique as we are, stands in the presence of that one. Rosh Hashanah is our season of renewing that faith. It is all about creation and recreation, birth and rebirth. Our Torah readings in this season begin with the birth of Isaac and conclude with the rebirth of Jonah. Adonai Melech, repeated so many ways on this day, is our way of affirming that we can turn to the one who created us to help us create ourselves anew. We do it by tshuva, the act of acknowledging and returning to our source, to the place where we came from, to our truest selves, to the truest self. To say Adonai Melech is an act of submission, something so very hard for us headstrong moderns. I recognize that I did not create myself. I do not have all the answers. I will not live forever, and I do not know why I am here. Please help me figure it out. So with that introduction to Malchuyot, I will begin with the Hinani Prayer, which is on page 40. And it's a way for me, as the one leading us, can offer my deep humility of getting to stand before you and offer these prayers. I'm going to read it in English because it feels more meaningful to me, and feel free to follow along in Hebrew. Again, we're on page 140. Hinani, here I stand, impoverished in merit, trembling in the presence of the one who hears the prayers of Israel. Even though I am unfit and unworthy for the task, I come to represent your people Israel and plead on their behalf. Therefore, gracious and merciful Adonai, awe-inspiring God of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, I pray that I might successfully seek compassion for myself and all those who send me. Charge them not with my sins, and let them not bear the guilt of my transgressions, though I have sinned and transgressed. May they not be shamed for my deeds, and may their deeds cause me no shame. Accept my prayer as if it were uttered by one worthy of this task, a person of good repute, whose voice is sweet and whose nature is pleasing to all. Quiet what might trouble me. May our faith in you be accepted lovingly, and may your love cover over our sins. Transform our afflictions and those of all Israel to joy and gladness, life and peace, love, integrity, and peace, and may there be no obstacles confronting my prayer. May it be your will, Adonai, God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, great, mighty, awe-inspiring, transcendent God, who responded to Moshe, saying, I will be there with you in the way that I will be there with you, that my prayer reach your throne through the merit of all honest, righteous, and devout people, and for the sake of your glory. Praised are you, merciful God, who hears prayer. Baruch atah shomea tefillah. Going to open the ark, and I invite you to rise if you are able to join me in the Amidah, which begins on page 141. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol, v'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Goel Livnei V'nehem, Leman Shemo B'Ahava. Misod Hachamim U'Nevonim, ומלמד דעת מבינים, הבטחה בי בתפילה ובתחנונים, לחלול לכן פני מלך, מלכי המלכים ואדוני האדונים. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וקודנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים, למענך אלוהים, אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ופוקד ומשיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע. מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. A few words on Untitled Chapter before we read the prayer together. These words are written by Rabbi Suzanne Offit. On Rosh Hashanah it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who shall live and who shall die. On these awesome days, our liturgy posits that God sits in judgments of our behavior, assesses our actions, and determines whether we warrant another year of life. This assertion of divine knowledge calls attention to the frightening depths of our own not knowing. None of us know whether we will die this year or next year or in many years. Perhaps there is a quiet moment amidst all the words we say on these days when we allow ourselves to come more fully into this awareness. We imagine that the judgment of our lives will be sealed at the end of Yom Kippur, and in facing death, we face the limits of our lives. We are beckoned to become our own judge. There is time, and now is the time. We are not here to try to accrue bonus points in some cosmic ledger. We are not here to try to escape death by gaining favor with an unforgiving God. We are here to listen to the question that calls out softly, insistently, from within and beyond us. What do you want to do with the time you have left? And teshuvah, tefillah, and tzedakah avert the severity of the decree. The harshest decree is not dying without breath. The harshest decree is not living with breath. Teshuvah, we turn inward, hear our own hearts with courage, and resolve to do better. Tefillah, we call out, offering our gratitude, our vulnerability, and our desire for discernment. Tzedakah, we extend a hand, share what we have, give sustenance, and dignify with hope. With each of these three gestures, we are offered a gift, the gift of breath, that connects us to everything that is, was, and will be. This, only this, can avert the severity of the decree. To live in relationship, to find our own breath in syncopation with another. The ark is open for Untitled Chapter on page 143. Untitled Chapter, Kedushat Hayom. Let us speak of the sacred power of this day, profound and awe-inspiring. On it, your sovereignty is celebrated, and your throne from which you rule is truth, is established with love. Truly, you are judge and prosecutor, expert and witness, completing the indictment, bringing the case, and enumerating the counts. You recall all that is forgotten and will open the book of remembrance, which speaks for itself, for our own hands have signed the page. The great shofar will be sounded, and the still small voice will be heard. Angels will be alarmed, seized with fear and trembling, declaring, "This is the very day, is the day of judgment, for even the hosts of heaven are judged. No one is innocent in your sight. All that lives on earth will pass before you like a flock of sheep. As shepherds examine the flock, making each sheep pass under the staff, so will you review the number and count, judging each living being, determining the fate of everything in creation, inscribing their destiny. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Kama ya'avrun v'chama yabareun. Mi yichyeh u'mi yamut. Mi v'kitzo u'mi lo v'kitzo. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Mi va'esh u'mi va'mayim. Mi v'cherev u'mi v'chaya, mi v'ra'av u'mi v'tzama, mi v'ra'ash u'mi v'magefa, mi v'chanika u'mi v'skila. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yekatevun, uveyom som kippur yechatemun. Mi yanuach umi yanua, mi yashkit umi yitoreraf, mi yishalev umi yityaser, mi ya'ani umi ya'asir, mi yushpal umi yarum. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, Oveyom Som Kippur yechatemun. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, Oveyom Som Kippur yechatemun. Uteshuva, utefila, utzedaka, ma'avirin et roa hagzera. But teshuva, tefila, and tzedakah have the power to transform the harshness of our destiny. We continue with the Kedusha on page 145. Kesod siach sarfei kodesh hamagdishim shimcha bakodesh dare mala im dare mata kakatuv al yad neviecha v'karazeh al zavamar kadosh 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 Adonai Tzevaot Melocho haaretz kivodo Kevodo Malei Olam Mesharatav Shoalim Zelazeh Ayem Ekom Kevodo Leumantam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimkomo Yifen Berachamim V'yachonam Hamyachadim Shemo Erev Boker B'chol Yom Tamim Ha'amayim B'Yahava Shema Omrim. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Hu Eloheinu Hu Avinu Hu Malkeinu Hu Moshienu Hu Yashmienu Barachamav Sheni Le'enei Kol Chai Lehiyot Lachem L'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adir Adirenu Adonai Adonenu Ma'adir Shimcha B'chol Haaretz V'haya Adonai Lamelech Al Kol Haaretz V'yom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad Uvdivrei Kodshecha Katuv Lemor Yimloch Adonai Leolam Elohai Zion Lador Vador. Hallelujah. We continue on the top of page 146. Lador Vador Nagid Godlacha Ulanetzach Netzachim Kedushacha Nagdish V'shibchach Eloheinu Mipinu Lo Yamush Leolam Va'ed Ki Amelech Gadol V'kadosh Ata. You may be seated. We continue on page 151. V'timloch atahu levadecha al kol maasecha b'har Tzion mishkan kevodecha u'v'Yushalayim ir kodshecha kakatuv b'divrei kodshecha yimloch Adonai leolam Elohai Tzion lador vador. Hallelujah. Kadosh ata v'norah shemecha ve'en Elohai mibaladecha ככתוב, ויקבע אדוני צבאות במשפט, והאל הקדוש נקדש בצדקה. ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הקדוש. אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מכנו לעבודתך, ושמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה את יום הזיכרון הזה, יום תשועה מקרה קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. Now we get to the Malchuyot part, and we're on page 154. And remembering what we said about submission, I want to just remind and offer, if it's available to folks, there is a prostration moment in what's called this Great Aleinu. The ark is going to be open, and when it comes to the Va'anachnu Korim piece, where we usually just bow, kind of a half bow, if it's available to you and you feel comfortable being on the floor, there is a custom for some to be down on the floor. I'm going to try to do it in the most sneeze way possible. Yes, it's something that I enjoyed at this time of year, and I recognize that it is not for everyone. So we continue on page 154. If you wanted to do any prostrating, I definitely recommend moving out of, well, I guess you could do it in the pew, but I think that might be very difficult. So you know your bodies, I trust you. Here we go. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol latei kedula liotzer bereshit shelo asanu kol goyei ha'aratzot velo samanu כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסי ארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגובי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו, אין עוד. אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות על לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. We continue on page 157. Eloheinu ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, מלוך על כל העולם כולו בכבודך, והינשא על כל הארץ בקרח, והופע בהדר גאון וזכה, על כל יושבי תבל ארצך, וידע כל פעול כי אתה פעלתו, ויבין כי יצור כי אתה יצרתו, ויאמר כל אשר נשמה ואפו, אדוני אלוהי ישראל מלך, ומלכותו בכל משלה. קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך, סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בשועתך, v'taher libeinu le'ovdecha be'emet. Ki ata Elohim emet, udvarcha emet v'kayam la'ad. Baruch ata Adonai, melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael, ve'yom hazikaron. I realized in this moment, Adam, that I didn't check in with you to see if you would be okay with doing more shofar blowing during the Musaf. Amazing. Okay. So we're going to turn to page 158. And as soon as Adam is ready, we will hear more shofar on 158. Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Hayom Harat Olam, Hayom Ya'amid B'mishpat Kol Yitzurei Olamim, Im Kavanim, Im Ka'avadim, Im Kavanim Rachmenu, Kerachem Av Al Banim, Ve'im Ka'avadim Einenu Lecha Teluyot, Al Shetechanenu, V'totzi Ka'or, V'mishpatenu, Ayom Kadosh. Arashet sifatenu yarav lefanecha, yarav lefanecha. Arashet sifatenu yarav lefanecha, el ram v'nisa. Mevinu ma'azin ma'avitu makshim lekol tekiyatenu. Utekabel berachamim uveratzon seder malchutenu. We continue with Zichronot, and we are going to read together, actually, in English, on page 159. On the side panel, there's a wonderful interpretive Zichronot offering by the author Roger Kamenetz. So please join me on the left side where it says the broken tablets. But before that, I just want to, sorry, I forgot, just share this quick teaching about remembering from art. Jews are all about memory. We have been around longer than most identifiable human families, and our memory goes all the way back. Abraham, Moses, Ruth, David, Esther, they all still live in our calendar, hence in our imagination. They link to all our personal memories. Friends, parents, grandparents, all of them come and surround us, especially in this sacred season. But those are human memories. Here we are looking for much more. God's memory, the unchanging one, the great one of being. Does God remember? What are we really asking here? Am I remembered? Is my life memorable in any way? Is anybody paying attention? Am I being noticed? This is our answer. Yes, you, Adonai, remember the whole enterprise. Each one of us, every creature in your image, is seen and noticed, remaining eternally present within that one. So now we continue in Zichronot and read together the broken tablets. The broken tablets were also carried in an ark. Insofar as they represented everything shattered, everything lost, they were the law of broken things. The leaf torn from the stem in a storm, a cheek touched in fondness once, but now the name forgotten. How they must have rumbled, clattered on the way, even carried so carefully through the wasteland. How they must have rattled around until the pieces broke into pieces, the edges softened, crumbling, dust collected at the bottom of the ark, ghosts of old letters, old laws. Insofar as law broken is still remembered, these laws were obeyed. And insofar as memory preserves the pattern of broken things, these bits of stone were preserved through many journeys and ruined days, even, they say, into the promised land. And I want to offer one more reading in the section of Zichronot from the Baal Shem Tov on page 161. Forgetfulness leads to exile, while remembrance is the secret of redemption. We continue on page 162. I'm going to read the short paragraph before the shofar blowing, and then Adam, if you would continue with your beautiful shofar, that would be wonderful. Ki zocher hanishkachot atahu me'olam ve'en שכיחה לפני כיסא כבודך, ועקדת יצחק לזרעו היום ברחמים תזכור, ברוך אתה אדוני זוכר הברית. Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah, Ereshet Sifatenu Yerav Lefanecha, Yerav Lefanecha, Areshet Sifatenu Yerav Lefanecha, El Ram Benisa, Mevinu Ma'azin, Ma'abitu Ma'akshiv, Lekol Tekiyatenu, Utekabel Barachamim, Uveratzon Seder Zichronotenu. We continue with one last kavanah from the art about shofarot. Shofarot, God's calling. We submit. We are noticed. We do not have all the answers, but our lives make a difference. The truths of Malchuyot and Zichronot now lead us to a third step, shofarot. We are being called. The shofar verses we invoke here call us from the past and from the future. They are the shofar of Sinai, the soundtrack of that smoking mountain where we first called to live in God's presence, and the herald of the Messiah yet to come, calling us to partake of the great redemption, the fulfillment of all our human dreams. We stand here in the middle, hearing the shofar sound forth from the past and the future. But the sound we most need to hear is the call of the present, the shofar that says to us in this very moment, wake up, you are being called. We submit, we are noticed, we are being called. Adonai Melech, Adonai Malach, Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed. We continue on 166. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, tika b'shofar gadol lechen utnenu, v'sanes lekabetz kuluyotenu, v'karev pizurenu mibein hagoyim, unifusotenu, kanes mikarte aretz, v'havienu l'tzion iracha berina, Yerushalayim beit mikdashecha b'simcha olam. Shesham asu avotenu ve'imotenu lefanecha et olotehem ve'et shalmehem ve'chein katuv b'toratecha uve'yom smachtem uve'moadechem uve'rashi chodshechem utekatem b'chatzosorot al oletechem ve'al zivchei shalmechem v'hayu lechem zikaron lifnei Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem ki ata shomer kol shofar u'ma'azin shua ein domeh lach baruch ata Adonai shomer kol trua amo Yisrael barachamim. One last call of the shofar for today. Tekiah, Shvarim Trua, Tekiah, Tekiah, Shvarim, Tekiah, Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah Gedola, Mr. Koch. Amazing. Thank you, Adam. We are going to conclude Shofarot with some words from Rabbi Sharon Cohen-Anisfeld, one of my favorite people and teachers, and then we'll sing Areshet Sifatenu one last time for today. Hayom Harat Olam, today the world is born. As we stand on Rosh Hashanah and say, today the world is born, we remember that each and every human being is an Olam Katan, a small universe, forever being born. May the sound of the shofar bring us closer to this awareness that each and every person is a small world, utterly unique and born from the same source, endlessly complex and longing for connection. May this be a year in which we open the inner and outer gates so that we may deepen our connection to the source of all life, to each other, and to our deepest selves. We continue with Areshet Sifatenu on the bottom of 166. Areshet Sifatenu Yarav Lefanecha El Ram V'Nisa. Areshet Sifatenu Yarav Lefanecha El Ram V'Nisa. Mevinu Ma'azin Ma'abit U'Ma'akshiv Lekol Tekiyatenu U'Tekabel Berachamim Uveratzon Seder Shofrotenu. We continue on 167. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu bi'amcha Yisrael u'tfilatam v'hashev et ha'avodah lidvir beitecha v'yishei Yisrael u'tfilatam b'ahava tekabel b'ratzon u'tehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha v'techazena einenu v'shuvcha l'tzion barachamim baruch ata Adonai hamachazir shechlinato l'tzion. Modim anachnu lach she'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu leolam va'ed tzorcheinu megein yashenu ata hu ledor vador nodeh lecha nusaper tehilatecha al chayenu hamisurim b'yidecha v'al nishmotenu hapikudot lach v'al nisacha shebachol yamim ana v'al nifotecha v'tevotecha shebachol eitz erev v'avoker v'tzohoraim hatov kilo chalu rachamecha v'hamrachem kilo tamu chasadecha me'olam kivinu lach. Page 168. Ve'al kulam yiparach v'tromam shimcha malkeinu tamid le'olam va'ed. Please join me in English on the left-hand side of 168 where it says Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, remember your compassion and subdue your anger. Bring an end to pestilence, sword and hunger, captivity and destruction, sin and oppression, plague and calamity, every illness, misfortune and quarrel, all kinds of danger, every evil decree and causeless hatred. Bring an end to these for us and for all people of your covenant and for all people in the entire world, and inscribe all the people of your covenant for a good life. Uchtov lechaim tovim kol b'nei vritecha v'chol hachayim yidu chasad v'halu et shimcha be'amet ha'el yeshunahenu v'ezotenu sela baruch ata Adonai hatov shimcha ulachana'eh lehodor. Page 169. אין כהנים כאן, נכון? יש? לא? Not doing? Okay. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu baruchenu b'avracha hamushleshet b'Torah haktuva al yedei Moshe avdecha ha'amor mipi Aaron uvanav kohanim am kedoshecha ka'amor yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisem lecha shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha chayla chesed v'rachamim Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha Barchenu avinu kulanu ke'echad be'or panecha ki v'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu Torat chayim v'ahavat chesed u'tzedakah v'racha v'rachamim v'chayim v'shalom v'tov b'einecha levarach ad amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha b'sefer chayim b'vracha v'shalom u'farnasa tova nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amcha me'Yisrael l'chaim tovim u'l'shalom l'chaim tovim u'l'shalom u'l'shalom v'na'amar ki v'yarbu yamecha ve'yosifu lecha shonot chayim l'chaim tovim tikatevu tichtvenu Elohim chayim katvenu b'sefer hachayim kakatuv yatem advekim b'Adonai Elohechem chayim kulchem hayom. We continue on page 170 with so many different blessings that I am just wanting to throw out and shower everybody with because they're such good blessings. So I'll start the tune first and then you'll just join in. Hopefully it'll sound familiar. Hayom tatzmenu, amen. Hayom tevarchenu, amen. Hayom titgadalenu, amen. Hayom tidrashenu letova, amen. Hayom tikvatenu lechayim tovim, amen. Hayom tikabel barachamim v'ratzon et tefilatenu, amen. Hayom tishma shavatenu, amen. Hayom titmachenu b'yamim sidkecha, amen. Such good singing, such good singing. We continue with the Kaddish Shalem, which is on, oh, Adam, I misspoke. If you're, oh, nope, okay.
It's okay, we don't do it.
Oh, you don't do Kaddish Shalem? Okay, we don't have to do it. Great. So we will skip Kaddish Shalem and... Oh, Kaddish Shalem, no shofar. Okay, thank you, Mark. So 171. Yitgadal, Yitgadash Shemei Rabba, B'yamad Yirach Yurtei V'emlich Malchutei, B'chayechon V'yomechon V'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael, V'agalav B'zman Kariv, V'yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Li'olam Yomei Almaya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yinaseh, V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemei Nekudusha, B'richu Le'ela, Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechamata, Da'amiram V'yalma V'yimru Amen. Titkabel Tzotahon U'votahon D'chol Yisrael, Kodam Avuhon Di V'yishmaya V'yimru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yal Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru Amen. We continue with Aleinu on 173. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרם בשמיים ממעל, ושכין עתוזו בגופי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. על כן נגמר לך אדוני אלוהינו מרמהו. כן עולם במלכות שלי בכל מיני משהו. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, bottom of 173. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. On 174, we will do Kaddish Yatom. If anyone is in mourning or observing a yortzeit, if there's a name that you would like to share, I'm happy for you to share it with us out loud if you would like, or just keep the person in your thoughts. Okay, we will begin on 174. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'alma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. B'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehe shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam milmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama Rabbah min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Are there announcements? Would you like to make them? No. Jim, would you like to make them?
I'd like people to know that, first of all, that we're having Shofar Sound this coming Saturday. Services for the first time in a long time at Smith Hall at Harvard Hillel. So that's something very exciting to look forward to and to join us for. We have good ventilation and good infiltration at Hillel. I believe it's 9:30.
So for those who might not be able to hear Jim, I just want to repeat the exciting announcement is that this Shabbos, Shabbat Shuvah, the Worship and Study Minyan will be meeting in person at Harvard Hillel in Smith Hall, 9:30 start time. And if you want to do anything, like read anything or lead anything, you are more than welcome. And you can be in touch with either Jim or Susan about that.
We also have this wonderful next event in our series of Schmooze and Learn
Here,
on the Zoom. And this one is going to have Professor Jacob Meskin from the Maya program. September 19th, Sunday at 7:30, we're going to have a special event on Zoom with Jacob Meskin, who is a professor with the Hebrew College Maya program, and he's going to talk about what?
Sukkot. He's going to talk about the Sukkah and the meaning of Sukkot, and give a taste of the course that he will be teaching in the fall.
Wonderful.
Where he's going to look at classic passages in our scriptures and in our Talmudic sources and how modern Jewish thinkers look at them. So we're going to start off with Jacob Meskin on the Sukkah, the enjoyment of being in a Sukkah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jim. And just to overstate the obvious, Susan has an announcement.
I just wanted to thank all the participants in today's service, particularly Rabbi Rachel.
Thank you.
For the first time with us, and did a really lovely job.
Thank you. Thank you.
And just check the website for the times for Liturgy and Yom Kippur. We'll be back here.
Yes, Susan read my mind. I don't have the times in my mind for Yom Kippur. They are on the website. If that's not available to you, then if you have to get in touch with Susan or Jim or Rabbi Jim, that is the best way to go. Jim, will you do me a favor and shut off the microphone that I gave you? Jim, will you shut off the microphone that I gave you? I don't know if that's, that would be great. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I love a small and mighty group of Jews who come together at any moment, really, but especially on a second day of a holiday, to be together and to daven and to reflect and to think and talk. And so thank you for being here. And I will leave it to Susan whether we're ending with the Don Olam or Achal Sha'alti. Yeah, that's Psalm 27. So we'll do that. Great. So if you will turn, please, to page 27, We will take a few moments to do Psalm 27 on our own, and then I will call us together in song in a few moments with the bolded lines that are kind of in the middle of the page. And also they're in red in transliteration on the left side, if that's helpful. Adonai. I just wanted to point out before we start singing together the line that Dave, or David, depending on what he would prefer, was speaking about in the Torah discussion is 5 lines up from the bottom. Horeini Adonai darkecha uncheni beorach mishor leman sarerai. Is that the one? Oh, no. No, the one before. Thank you. Very tired. Ki avivi imi azvuni v'Adonai ya'as feini. Though my father and mother abandon me, Adonai will gather me in. And we will sing together Achal Sha'alti. Achal Sha'alti mi'etz Adonai ota avakesh. Achal Sha'alti mi'etz Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti bevet Adonai kol yemei chayai lakazot benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo lakazot benoam Adonai ulevaker behechalo. Shanah Tovah umetuka, everyone. Thank you again for being here, and just really grateful to be able to be together. And if we haven't already met yet, I would love to officially meet you. I didn't get to meet a bunch of people on Monday night, whenever that was, so I'm happy to now. And I'm going to shut this off now because that's a good idea.